Have you ever noticed something strange about your dreams? Not the dreams you see while sleeping, but the ones you carry in your heart? At first they feel powerful, alive. You can almost see them in front of you. You imagine the success, the respect, the moment. Everything finally works out. Your mind becomes excited, your emotions rise, and for a short time it feels like your future has already begun. But then something changes. Not outside, inside. The energy that once pushed you forward slowly becomes weaker. The urgency disappears, and the dream that felt so real begins to feel distant, almost unreal. And the question is not just why people fail. The real question is why so many dreams die before they even begin. In a quiet village surrounded by fields and long dusty roads, there lived a young man named Simon. He was not lazy. He was not careless. In fact, he was full of ideas. New ideas came to him like wind, fast, unpredictable, and constant. One week he wanted to open a shop in the village market. The next week he wanted to learn pottery and sell handmade pots. Another week he thought of building a house with his own hands, something the whole village would remember. Simon was always dreaming, always planning, always imagining. But there was something unusual about him. He never kept his ideas inside. The moment a dream entered his mind, he would rush to tell everyone, not just friends or family, but anyone who would listen. In the village market, between the noise of vendors and customers, Simon would stand with excitement in his voice and say things like, "Soon I will open the biggest shop here. People from nearby villages will come just to buy from me." People would smile. Some would clap lightly. Some would encourage him. And Simon would feel something warm inside his chest. It felt like approval, like success, like he had already taken the first step just by saying it. That feeling became addictive, because every time he spoke about a dream, people responded. And every response gave him a small emotional reward, a sense of achievement without action. But something very silent was happening underneath. After those moments of excitement, when Simon returned home, something strange always followed. The energy that felt so strong in front of people slowly disappeared. The motivation that felt unstoppable in the morning became heavy in the evening. Days passed, weeks passed, and the shop was never opened. The pottery was never learned. The house was never built. Instead, Simon kept repeating the same cycle. A new dream would appear. He would announce it. People would praise him. He would feel satisfied, and then nothing would happen. At first, he didn't notice the pattern. He thought maybe he just needed more time, or better planning, or the right moment. But years started passing like that, and slowly, without realizing it, Simon's life became a collection of unfinished beginnings. Dreams that were spoken but never built. Dreams that were shared but never touched. And somewhere deep inside him, a quiet frustration started growing. Not loud, not obvious, but constant. A feeling of being stuck in the same place while time moved forward without him. One evening, when the sun was going down and the village was becoming quiet, Simon sat near an old well. The sound of distant birds and soft wind filled the air, but inside him there was no peace. He was thinking about everything he had started and everything he had not finished. That is when an old man from the village walked toward him. This man was known by everyone, not because he spoke the most, but because when he spoke, people listened. He had a calm presence, like someone who had seen life deeply and understood it quietly. He sat beside Simon without asking permission, as if he already knew he was welcome. After a moment of silence, he asked gently, "Why do you look so troubled?" Simon hesitated. Then he finally spoke honestly. "I have so many dreams, but I never finish anything. I don't understand why I keep failing." The old man didn't interrupt. He didn't judge. He just listened. Then he asked a simple question that changed everything. "What do you do when you get a new idea?" Simon replied immediately, almost proudly. "I tell everyone. I want them to know. I want them to feel happy for me. I want them to see what I'm going to do." The old man nodded slowly, as if he had already heard this answer many times in life. Then he said, "Come with me tomorrow morning. I want to show you something." The next morning, Simon arrived at a small garden behind the old man's house. It was quiet there. No crowd, no noise, just soil, plants, and silence. The old man held 2 small seeds in his hand. He gave one seed to Simon and said, "Plant it." Simon did what he was told. He dug a small hole in the soil, placed the seed inside, and covered it carefully. Then the old man took the second seed. But instead of planting it, he held it up high and walked toward the village road where a few children were playing. He called out loudly, "Look, everyone, I have a seed. Soon it will become a beautiful tree. Watch it grow." The children gathered around. They looked at it with curiosity. Some smiled, some clapped. The moment felt important, even though nothing had actually happened yet. After enjoying their attention, the old man placed the seed on a rock nearby, exposed to sunlight, wind, and dust. Then he walked away. Simon didn't understand what was happening. Days passed, the seed buried in the soil remained hidden. Nothing visible at first, but deep inside, life was beginning. The seed absorbed water, it adjusted. It struggled in darkness. Slowly, something small started forming beneath the surface. A tiny root, a small shoot, a silent beginning. No one saw it, no one praised it, no one clapped for it, but it was growing. Meanwhile, the seed placed on the rock stayed exactly the same. No protection, no soil, no depth, only exposure, and slowly it dried. Birds picked at it. Wind moved it slightly. And eventually, it stopped being a seed at all. It became nothing. Simon watched all this without speaking, and then the old man finally said something that stayed with him forever. A seed needs silence to grow. It needs darkness. It needs to be hidden from the world in the beginning. He paused and looked at Simon. If you expose it too early, it loses its chance to become what it is supposed to be. Simon felt something shift inside him, because suddenly he saw himself in that second seed. Every time he spoke about his dreams, it felt like that moment of praise, that moment of attention, that moment of being seen. But nothing was actually growing. The old man continued. When you tell people about your dreams too early, your mind feels satisfied. It feels like you have already achieved something. The applause becomes your reward before the work begins, and slowly your motivation disappears. Simon stayed silent. For the first time, he was not defending himself, not explaining, not justifying. He was listening, because he knew it was true. Every dream he had announced had followed the same pattern: excitement, praise, satisfaction, and then nothing. That night, Simon walked home differently. Not with excitement, but with awareness. Something inside him had changed. Even if he couldn't explain it fully, for the first time in his life, he made a decision that no one else knew about. He would stop announcing his dreams. He would stop speaking before doing. He would try something different. He chose one simple task, not something big or impressive, just something real. He decided to build a wooden chair. And this time, he told no one. No village announcement, no market speech, no expectation, no applause waiting for him, only work. Every evening after finishing his daily responsibilities, he went to a quiet corner and started working with wood. At first, his hands were not perfect. His measurements were wrong. His cuts were uneven. But there was no audience to impress, so there was no pressure to be perfect, only improvement, only learning. Some days he felt motivated. Some days he felt tired. Some days he wanted to stop. But something was different this time, because no one knew, no one expected anything from him. He was not performing anymore, he was building. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, the shape of a chair started appearing. First rough, then better, then stronger, then stable. Mistakes were corrected quietly, progress was made silently, and something inside Simon that had been broken for years started healing. Not because people praised him, but because he was finally finishing something. One day he placed the final piece. He stepped back, and for a moment he just looked at it. A simple wooden chair, nothing extraordinary to the world, but everything meaningful to him, because it was the first time in his life that a dream had not stayed in his mind or words, but had become reality. He sat on it slowly, and for the first time he felt a kind of pride that had no noise inside it. No need to tell anyone. No need for validation. Just quiet satisfaction. From that day, Simon continued working. One project after another. A table, a shelf, a stool, not announced, not shared before completion, only revealed when done. Slowly, people in the village began to notice something different. Not his words, but his work. Not his promises, but his results. And Simon, without realizing it, had become something he never achieved through speaking. He became consistent. He became reliable. He became real. And his life changed, not because he talked more about his dreams, but because he finally stopped talking and started building. Now think about your own life for a moment. How many times have you shared a dream too early? How many times did praise replace action? How many times did excitement die after attention? Sometimes, the biggest danger to a dream is not failure. It is exposure before execution. Because when you speak too soon, your mind starts celebrating something that hasn't even been built yet. So maybe the real secret is not about keeping secrets from others. Maybe it is about protecting your own energy from being spent too early. Let your work grow in silence. Let your effort develop in private. And when it is strong enough, when it is real enough, it will not need your words anymore. Because the world will see it on its own. And when that moment comes, you will finally understand that real success was never meant to be announced. It was meant to be built, quietly, consistently, until it speaks for itself.